Welcome and thank you for joining us. My name is Todd Drucker. I'm the Practice Development Director for the JAMS Philadelphia office. We have an impressive program for you today. Before I introduce the panel though, I'd like to quickly go over some housekeeping items. Today we are using the Zoom webinar platform. This is slightly different than the Zoom video conferencing platform that you would use for a mediation or an arbitration. So while the idea is the same, the look, feel, and capabilities will be different on the day of a session. If you schedule a matter with us, we will do demos and trainings with you and your client before the session takes place. While video conferencing may be new to many of you, it is actually not new to us here at JAMS. Without a doubt, COVID-19 has forced us all to use video conferencing on a much greater scale than ever before. However, JAMS has done video-enhanced mediations and arbitrations for more than a decade. We've invested in technology to make video conferencing an accessible and easy addition to any of your sessions. If you visit pretty much any JAMS office nationwide, including of course our Philadelphia office, we have rooms outfitted with Zoom-based equipment where a video conference can be started with the touch of a button. Perhaps most importantly, we also have a dedicated staff fully trained to moderate and administer these cases so that you can feel confident in the technology you are using on the day of a session. It's a true white glove service. A couple of more housekeeping items. During today's webinar, you will see two brief multiple choice poll questions related to virtual ADR appear on your screen. Feel free to answer the question or dismiss. Your submitted answers will be anonymous. This webinar will be recorded and eventually made publicly available on the JAMS website, but note that only panelists will be seen or heard in the recordings. One final housekeeping item. In addition to our panelist presentations today, we of course welcome your questions. There will be a Q&A segment at the end of the presentation, so feel free to send any questions to us using the chat or Q&A function at the bottom of your screens. Now, of course, it is my pleasure to introduce our panel. Siobhan Applewhite. Siobhan is the Manager of Facilities and Administration for the East Central region of JAMS. She is responsible for scheduling all Zoom sessions for the East Central region. Siobhan has also led the charge in creating and managing our moderator program. Angela Griffith. Angela is an administrative assistant of client services at JAMS Philadelphia, and I'm sure she's a familiar face to many of you. Angela is tasked with supporting our Philadelphia neutrals. One of her many responsibilities is acting as a local moderator to guide the success of our virtual sessions. Judge Annette Rizzo. Judge Rizzo served as a judge for 16 years in the 1st Judicial District, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Since joining JAMS, Judge Rizzo has served as a mediator and arbitrator in a wide range of cases, including business commercial, civil rights, class action, mass torts, employment, insurance, personal injury torts, professional liability, and real property. Jerry Roscoe. Jerry serves as a mediator and arbitrator for JAMS. He is a former litigator with over 30 years of experience in the resolution of complex multi-party matters, including commercial, healthcare, employment, and environmental disputes. He has chaired multi-million-dollar arbitrations, mediated Supreme Court cases, and served as a United States mediator during the war in Bosnia. Judge Diane Welsh. Over the past 23 years as a JAMS neutral and a United States magistrate judge, Judge Welsh has successfully resolved over 5,000 matters covering virtually every type of complex dispute. Specifically, Judge Welsh has extraordinary skill in resolving high-stakes, multi-party commercial disputes, employment matters, catastrophic personal injury cases, class actions, mass torts, and multi-district litigations. It's a very impressive panel. One final item before we begin. This program will actually be the first of several JAMS Philadelphia webinars. We have our second webinar already lined up for next week on May 7th, featuring Judge Welsh, Andrew Nadolna, Jay Levin, and Ron Schiller. The topic will focus on COVID-19 commercial insurance issues and ADR solutions. Details for this complimentary webinar are available on the JAMS website. And now it is my pleasure to begin the program and hand things off to Judge Diane Welsh. Judge?
Good afternoon, everyone. I've seen the list of the attendees. We have over 100 of you with us today, and I wish I could see each and every one of you in person, or at least on this video screen as well, but it's not possible. But I do sincerely hope that you and your families are well, and we all miss seeing you very much. Over the past 7 weeks, the words historic and unprecedented have been spoken thousands of times per minute throughout America and the world. The practice of law and the civil justice system have not been immune from the effects of this pandemic. This month, for the first time in its 230-year history, the United States Supreme Court will be holding arguments by telephone. They will hear 10 important cases over 6 days, and not by video, by telephone conference, with each justice and counsel participating from separate locations. Can you imagine how disconcerting it will be for counsel to make their arguments without the ability to make eye contact with or see the facial expressions of the justices? The court has taken this historic and unprecedented step in order to meet its responsibility to resolve cases in a timely manner while protecting the health of the justices, counsel, and the public. And we too have the responsibility to carry on with our work, utilizing every reasonable modification to our traditional procedures. Make no mistake about it. The work you do is critical to the public having access to justice, and you are therefore essential workers. The Third Circuit is also conducting oral arguments, including en banc arguments by telephone conference, because the court system does not yet have the capacity, as we do in the private sector, for all judges to participate by video. As the EDPA Chief Judge Sanchez recently stated at a federal court's webinar, the federal court is open for business. Although jury trials have been suspended and in-person appearances in the courthouse have been restricted, the judges and the court staff are working remotely, and the work of the court is moving forward expeditiously. New cases are being filed, and the number of filings have not dropped. And in some practice areas, they've actually increased dramatically, including insurance. Rule 16 conferences are being conducted telephonically, as are conferences to address discovery disputes. Settlement conferences with magistrate judges are being conducted by telephone, and with a few being done by video on law firm platforms. Motions for summary judgment are being decided, with any necessary arguments being conducted by telephone. The chief reported that EDPA judges have issued over 200 opinions since the shutdown. The judges are working diligently, and they are proud of their productivity during this crisis. Indeed, it appears that motions are being ruled upon even more quickly than before the crisis, perhaps because with trials suspended, the judges have even more time to devote to deciding motions. A lawyer told me the other day that he filed his reply brief, and within a matter of hours, the judge's opinion was posted on ECF. Lawyers have also told me that the judges are aggressively enforcing discovery deadlines and denying requests for extensions based on COVID, ordering depositions to proceed by telephone or video. So, as trial lawyers, you are experiencing rigorous case management schedules. But to what end? To quote the chief, realistically, trials will not come back for a while, and when they do, they will look different. Jury boxes and jury deliberation rooms cannot accommodate distances of 6 feet between jurors. And the judges, counsel, and witnesses will also need to maintain 6 feet distances, and everyone will need to wear masks. Can you imagine counsel table with all your various lawyers and parties? How is that going to work? Moreover, it is expected that many jurors will refuse to return to the courthouse until there is a vaccine, and employers will be hard-pressed to pay their employees while they serve on a lengthy trial. And when trials do finally resume, there will inevitably be a significant backlog with criminal trials and hearings taking priority over civil trials. In short, you will not be conducting a jury trial as you have known it for a very long time. I see this landscape for you as the worst of both worlds. You have the burden and expense of complying with pretrial scheduling deadlines, only to hurry up and wait for a trial that isn't going to happen anytime soon. Against this backdrop, many of you have been calling our case managers to schedule tentative dates in the future for an in-person mediation in hopes that the city shutdown will be lifted by then. Our staff has offered you the alternative of an earlier firm date for a virtual mediation. Many of you have agreed and have been successful in settling your cases. Others have been reluctant and skeptical that it could possibly work, as well as the in-person process you have come to know and love. My question to you today is, what are you waiting for? If not now, when? All reports from the state and the city governments are that we are a long way from meeting the minimum threshold to allow business to reopen, even with restrictions. You've seen the graph just yesterday on the front page of the Inquirer. You have seen the headlines, City of Philadelphia not opening anytime soon. And when that day comes, in months, not weeks, it will be with restrictions for a very long time for wearing masks, keeping more than 6 feet apart in groups of less than 10. Try to picture that in the in-person mediation process you have come to know and love. I can't imagine you and I communicating effectively wearing masks, plus my glasses fog up and it's very annoying. I would rather see your facial expressions on my screen than to be with you in person hidden behind a mask. We have all been watching the television news journalists and their guests broadcasting remotely every night, as well as the late night show hosts and even Saturday Night Live. It is our new normal, and we are getting used to it. Having done a number of virtual mediations in challenging cases, I can assure you with complete confidence that it has in no way impeded my ability to communicate with you and your client or with you back to me. All of the same reasons why you wanted to mediate before this crisis still apply, only more so. Plaintiffs, whether in a personal injury action or employment or a commercial case, are hurting. They cannot afford to wait. At this moment in time, it has never been truer that justice delayed is justice denied. And many defendants cannot afford or do not want to waste their resources engaging in expensive and unproductive pretrial litigation. In our current environment, all parties are more motivated to compromise. In other words, plaintiffs need the money and defendants don't have money to waste. Every opportunity to settle a case for your client should be explored. My final prediction is that even when we get past this crisis completely, virtual mediations will be with us in some form forever. Companies have been complaining for decades about the burden and cost of travel, sometimes requiring 3 days away from home and office to attend a mediation cross-country. I can remember being on the court 25 years ago, having to issue orders to have a person with authority to attend in person. And even when Philly opens to our local people, we are going to have lawyers and insurance and business representatives who will be unwilling to fly cross-country to attend a mediation in person. And they will insist that they be able to appear remotely, especially in light of the tremendous success that we have been experiencing settling cases with the virtual format. Several plaintiffs' lawyers have also told me, to my surprise and theirs, that they intend to continue to use virtual mediations in some of their cases in the future. They have found that many of their clients have been more comfortable and focused participating remotely from familiar surroundings, avoiding the stress of having to travel into Center City, Philadelphia, into a formal conference setting, with a large room with a lot of lawyers and opposing parties. And these plaintiffs' lawyers have reported that their communications with their clients have actually been easier and more focused. So my message to you today is give virtual mediation a try. There is no risk. It is not binding. Give it your very best effort, as you have always done, the old tried and true in-person way. The benefits will outweigh the cost. If not now, when? I am now going to turn the discussion over to my friend and colleague, Judge Annette Rizzo, who's going to be talking to you about some of the developments in the state court system during this crisis. Judge Rizzo?
Great. Thank you so much, Judge, for handing it off. Well, I don't know about everyone else on the panel, otherwise I am inspired. So thank you for the call. Judge Welsh is terrific and always sets the table for us. Many of the issues that I would touch on have already been mentioned by the judge, but I can't help from a personal standpoint, point that I've been handling a lot of these virtual sessions, and I share, as Judge Welsh and everyone here, just an outreach that hoping everyone of presence, family of friends, and your family at work, that all are safe and doing their best from what is now our virtual universe. So I give that shout out. This is also May Day, which normally would be a celebration throughout the country, rising to the occasion of just how important and vital the legal profession is to really protect the rights and the duties of all of our citizenry. I would normally be running the Goldilocks program in City Hall for our very, very young citizens. So keep that in mind that as we go through this, it's May Day, it's an inflection point for us to, as Judge Welsh says, if not now, when. I'm not going to go through all the cues other than to say, against the backdrop, clearly the Eastern District is well postured to move forward. They have seemed fortified and ready on this virtual platform to move their caseloads forward and to conduct the business of the day. The First Judicial District and the outlying state county courthouses really have sort of what I call ballet, of course, controlled by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, in terms of dealing with all the idiosyncrasies of all these counties. And you've seen some embedded rules that come out of some of these regional counties in terms of different deadlines and when operations will be back and things such as that. But at the end of the day, when all the ballet is together, clearly Philadelphia with its huge docket is leading the charge. So everyone has eyes on what we're doing at City Hall in Philadelphia County. And I have to tell you, impressively so, I have been in touch with many of the people who run that courthouse on a regular basis. And there may not be the technical wherewithal set up coming into this, but I have to tell you the ramp up has been extraordinary. It is a ballet. Things have to move in various parts. And our docket being so large and dealing with so many essential issues with respect to an overburdened criminal docket, and some of the issues in family court, and some that really need emergency services that have never skipped a beat about being present. But where does that leave our civil docket, which of course is a large and significant part of the business of the court there? And I have to say, for the most part, every PJ in the counties are running their own garden of what works. So what has been working in Philadelphia? We've seen some recent stepped orders, and I'm sure you as the bar have been getting these on feeds, of sort of little micro moves that have existed to give some guidance on case management. Those conferences will be going forward. And in fact, with wonderful staff as part of the court system, we'll be making the call about how to actually categorize new cases going forward, whether they would be an expedited, complex, or standard track. That will be a CMO, as mentioned by Judge Welsh, showing that business is moving forward. There's also, of course, been some relief from what was an omnibus order issued by the Supreme Court just a few days ago on April 28th to give guidance that many of court operations are using as a benchmark or inflection point May 11th in terms of a cutoff of proper filings and preserving statutes of limitations. You're watching all of that. You as practitioners are watching all of that. But what I find interesting is they, in moving up, have tried to get Discovery Court back on track. And I know there's been a lot of partnership with the local, state, civil bar to get those actions going. There's also been a call to arms of JPT, the army of JPTs who are going to present and conduct virtual settlement conferences. The intent and the mission is never different. They are trying to move these cases forward as best they can, knowing we will not be having live proceedings, as Judge Welsh mentioned, just because of logistics. I am also aware, however, of literally physical retrofitting of court space in City Hall to accommodate what will this new normal look like? What will the future look like in terms of proper distancing and accounting for certain things where hearings must take place in certain courtrooms. And we talk about micro matters in the foreclosure, forfeiture arena, landlord, tenant, and municipal court, the array of matters that hit the absolute health and welfare of our community come through the state court system. And the pressures and the considerations are enormous to try to meet all the needs to really protect due process and have everyone an opportunity to be heard. And I commend them in their efforts, but it's in a step process. So what do we do in terms of our universe? The clear message is from the state Supreme Court that we are going to get back on track as best possible, whatever it will take. And this call to arms is to normalize, just as what the governor did in terms of opening up law firms, where there could be, of course, those who are practitioners and vital staff to these attorneys to continue to do their work at hand, particularly in matters which are of urgent need, dealing with guardianship, family court, or other civil matters that must be kept on track, even in the injunctive universe. So we have this new technical platform. We know that there are motions that are being put in place to be determined by our various judge teams and team leaders that I understand are being wired up once there's connectivity. So all things are moving forward, but the real message behind all of this is it starts at the epicenter of where our attorneys are and doing their very best in the practice of law and representing the interests of their clients on all fronts. I found very interesting in the Supreme Court's order, they were out of the box straight away. That in this instance where we're dealing with a health emergency, it can in no way be used to secure strategic advantage in litigation, including by means of dilatory conduct. And if so, that will be a tee-up for there to be an answering to the court for potential sanction because there would be violations of professional conduct which may be asserted and also imposed upon various attorneys. That is the worst of all worlds. And I'm not saying that people will go down that track, but we understand with a mission to do everything we can to keep ourselves on track, I think keeps us very clear of that. But the court is mindful of that. It doesn't want this to be in any way used as a strategic benefit. And that's important. So let me just say, in terms of what I've experienced, I've had a multitude of virtual mediations from one where 9 session rooms were used in 1 to 2. And I echo some of the sentiment of Judge Welsh to have found success because my bottom line has always been, it is all about the face-to-face. It's all about considering one case at a time, listening to what the needs and wants are of the parties, having fine advocacy, and at the end of the day, drilling down to have that face-to-face encounter. And I have to tell you, we have not skipped a beat using that. And in fact, the ability to sort of be facile mobile with the help of great assistance in many ways is to really shift people around to have direct conversations I normally would have been less thoughtful about before the fact that we're on this platform. So let me just say about 5 takeaways, and I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Jerry Roscoe. Don't let the tech overcome the mission. We're having glitches. People have different levels of abilities, and I know our wonderful people, Siobhan and Angela, will speak to it. But if there's a drop-off, if your internet goes wireless, goes crazy, and you come back on platform, not to worry. We're where we are, and we're going to pick up that conversation again. Do not let the tech disappoint you or defeat you in keeping your eyes on the prize. Also, in terms of the face-to-face, make sure that in this instance, you really do use the platform, and that you would, if I were putting you in a small room and we were having that conversation, don't hold back. You have the ability to say, you know what, Judge, I need to take a pause and talk with you. You have that ability, actually more quickly than you would in live person. Even though I have my Fitbit on, my virtual Fitbit, when I walk the halls of JAMS. The other is, I have found a really great move that people have doing better prep for the sessions. I have protocols that everyone will have in their own preparation for what they want. What Judge Rizzo may want, not what Judge Welsh wants, Jerry Roscoe. However, I find that the submissions have been streamlined to the point and drilled down. It's of help to me to kind of get my lay of the land. I've been on a regular basis providing pre-calls with each of the attorneys to understand what the case is. So I'm already starting that mediation in an effective way before we go into session. Also, having pre-tech calls with people, and we'll talk about that, as also Todd mentioned. And that is helpful to just take away any anxiety, lift that, just go to the work of the day. I also say be fortified. You need snacks handy, you need water handy, you need good lips around if you need to make up to be present for that. You need time to factor in rest breaks. And I always say, you need your Advil. Sometimes being on a screen the whole time can be a little bit tedious. So if anyone wants to speak further about it, but I have to give you, it's something I was sort of a mixed believer in it, but I think that with the use of the virtual platform and the ability that we can go back to use a mixed media with your phones to talk as well through this, we can be creative and meet the needs of that case for those parties for that day. And we've seen great success with it. So I've been a convert. I was fighting the fight. And in that vein, I echo Judge Welsh's sentiment, if not now, when, because whatever that new normal is, and the hope is I do get to do my hug as opposed to virtual, that we're going to have the opportunity to use a whole variety of tools in our arsenal to really do what we need to do. And that is to bring peace and to manage risk and to also really defeat uncertainty, to bring resolution to everyone's needs. So I offer you this. This is our Swedish fish, which is our signature item. I wish I can deliver it to all of you. But here's my virtual Swedish fish to you, which always brings a smile or candy caught in your teeth. But nonetheless, I wish you all safety, and may the force be with all of us. So, and in those words, the Seminole Jerry Roscoe maybe to weigh in on this because he's had great experience on this platform. Thank you all. Stay well.
Thank you, Judges Rizzo and Welsh. As Todd Drucker said, we've been doing this really since the early 2000s. I remember in the late 1999, we were doing distance learning with the World Bank with 4 countries at once, and that was working flawlessly. And since then, the technology, both hardware and software, have advanced. Good news and bad news, almost anecdotally. Your potential success in working virtually is a little preordained. The other day I was looking at LinkedIn, and an associate at a very well-regarded law firm in Philadelphia was talking about how she was having success conducting depositions virtually. And the very first comment came from an equally well-known plaintiff's lawyer who, to use a technique that President Trump uses, I hear is a bully and is known for scorched earth letters. And he was expressing to this young associate how he couldn't get anyone to agree to collaborate or cooperate on online depositions. And so I give you this cautionary tale that your reputation precedes you, and your ability to get cooperation and collaboration during this time in stress is not unrelated to the context in which you practice law. So in the few years we've been doing this, I've taken a few notes as to some of the mechanics and tools one can use or at least be cognizant of when dealing virtually or through an online format. It's no secret you want to pay attention to your background and your context. If you've got family gamers who are going to use your bandwidth, let them know that you're going to be online. I've got 2 teenage gamers right now who are chomping at the bit to get back online, but I've held them off. If you've got a spouse doing yoga, playing yoga music, pay attention to that. We've confronted that in the past. Animals always seem to be welcome, however. A cat or a dog on the screen seems to be a great technique, coincidentally, to break up some of the tension. Lighting is important, and what's important about lighting is tend to these details before the mediation. Everyone can download Zoom on their computer and see what they look like ahead of time. In my mediation yesterday, one of the lawyers spent the first 10 minutes of the mediation getting up, walking back and forth, adjusting his lighting. And I submit to you that while everyone's waiting, it's a little late. Background is important. I did a little experiment last week. Every time I came on the screen, I wore a different tie, and no one noticed. What they do look at desperately is your background, though. They're looking at your photos. Do you have children's drawings? Do you have your windows open? They're looking at what model car you have. They're studying the background, trying to figure out what is it about your life that they don't know. So the lesson there is if there's something you don't want to talk about or discuss, don't put it in your background. I've got a little chair there that was built in the 1600s. It was my great-great-grandmother's baby chair. I put it there intentionally, not only as a family memento, but it helps with conversation. Be careful with your video settings. I can change my video setting now and enable HD, or at least try to, and you'll see a different view. And you might see that I've got a bottle of wine or a bottle of scotch in the chair over there. And you want to be forewarned and prepared as to what's going to be in your background. You need to make a decision. Are you going to look at the person on the screen, or are you going to look up at your camera? And you'll see the difference. So check with your hardware to see if that does make a difference, left or right. People are intently staring at what you're doing because that's the only body language they have. Eat or drink at your peril. You know, take a cup, put it to your mouth, see what impact that has to you. I've seen all different techniques there, including alcohol, and that I'll leave that to your judgment. As Judge Rizzo said, be sure you have text capability with all parties. That's incredibly important. And do a dry run with your clients. You know, 40 minutes of Zoom are free. Go ahead the day before, do a dry run with your clients, do a dry run with the mediator. Especially if your clients don't have smartphones or Apple phones. You know, if they have an old flip phone, that makes a big difference with regard to the technology. And conference with the mediator, though I know Judge Welsh and Judge Rizzo's, I think every JAM neutral talks now to the parties and to the mediator, at a minimum to the parties and counsel ahead of the mediation. So those are just some of the background considerations in embarking upon the process of video representation. So what are some of the tools that I've noted over the past 10 or 15 years using this technology? One is, now I'm told by the moderators that this is one of the most important things they see, confidence. Show confidence with your clients that you know what you're doing. And in fact, from a mediator's perspective, studies over the years have shown that mediators get about 3 minutes to establish confidence on the part of the parties. The parties will judge very rapidly whether they feel the mediator is capable of resolving their dispute. And in fact, that's the only occurrence psychologically at the front end of the mediation that researchers have been able to tie to success rates at the back of the mediation. Is this mediator capable? I submit to you it's the same issue with regard to advocacy. So body language is limited. You can't see from here down. You don't know what's going on, hopefully not much, but what's up here and what's coming out here and what's going on here is important. But what you can also take advantage of are some of the techniques mediators have been using for years, active listening. And active listening is more than just being quiet, waiting for your turn to talk. Active listening is engaging in behavior such that the speaker concludes that you're hearing what they say. So you use the tools of reframing and response and validation. You can also use those tools with regard to the mediator, going to your client and asking them what they think the mediator just said, or what's their understanding of the proposal as it stands at the moment. What's their understanding of the difference between the last offer of demand and the next offer of demand? Getting active with regard to engaging the parties is going to be critical, because people are walking into this situation, this technology, only with the experience of staring at a screen and taking information. And I think it's incumbent upon us as the neutral and you as the advocates to keep the parties engaged, particularly if the parties are social distancing from their home. Very difficult to have a spouse, husband and wife sitting back on their sofa engaging in the mediation process as if they're watching television. And I think we're all in the same boat there, and that it's our job to keep everyone engaged, using active listening, using reframing, staying away from you messages. You know, when any party or mediator is about to begin a sentence with the word you, the listening party hears judgment coming. You are this, you said this. And it can be off-putting to people, and they can get defensive. So we have to change our language. The use of pacing is important, the use of silence. I think it takes longer for people to metabolize what's being said, what's being negotiated. And I remember one case where I had a mediation where I timed it. I was silent for 14 minutes, just staring at the parties with the understanding that they needed some time to accept what was being said and to formulate a response. And pacing is important from a neutral's perspective. 2 days ago, I had a mediation where the plaintiff's lawyer was really being supportive of the negotiation and wanted to make a big move in demand in response to a fairly legitimate offer. But it was clear to me that the parties weren't ready. Now, they were his clients, and I already sensed resistance. And this mediator's view is that I have a client in the process, and it's the process itself. And so I actually had to suggest a new demand that was higher than what the attorney was advocating, because I sensed that the parties needed pacing. Now, to use what Judge Rizzo's recommendation was, I texted the plaintiff's lawyer at the same time, telling him what I was doing, so that I didn't create a new negotiation in their room. So you've got the combination of independent technology and the need to pace the clients. And sure enough, the clients ended up resolving the case, and they were very satisfied. And the lawyer was very satisfied because he and I had back channel communications going on. So what are the takeaways, to use one of Judge Rizzo's favorite phrases? One, establish and maintain engagement with the mediator, and most importantly, from your perspective, I submit the parties. And the second is a final cautionary tale born of experience. Just because someone's name appears in the screen and it's a black box does not mean they can't see you. Very recently, someone made what I viewed somewhat inappropriately to be a silly comment, and I put a gun to my head like this, and unbeknownst to me, they were watching me the entire time. So I learned by experience. So I'm happy to answer any questions and turn to my fellow panelists.
Okay, thank you, Jerry, Judge Welsh, and Judge Rizzo. Absolutely. I'm about to hand things off, of course, to Siobhan and Angela. I do want to remind folks that if you do want to ask questions, please feel free. There's a Q&A function and a chat function at the bottom of your screen. So Siobhan, Angela, please go ahead.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm going to be speaking about the security and using Zoom platforms during your JAMS mediations and arbitrations. I'm going to take a moment to share my screen with a PowerPoint presentation. All right, so our JAMS sessions are encrypted and secured via Zoom through their virtual platform. Some additional cautions that JAMS has taken in the security realm is to ensure that each session has a valid list of participants, that is a screened list from the case manager and the neutrals and the parties. When a Zoom request is requested for a session, what happens is on the back end, JAMS associates are talking to each other. We are engaging in a process to make sure that each participant receives an Outlook invite. That Outlook invite contains a unique meeting ID. When that meeting ID is inside that meeting link, it is validated with a password so that each session cannot be accessed by anyone at any time. You have to have these two key pieces of information to even enter our sessions. And once that happens, a client would click the meeting link, enter their password, and then they're going to be stopped at a waiting room. The waiting room feature is one of the most used features in Zoom for JAMS mediations because it is a virtual queue. This virtual queue allows every individual joining the session to wait and be admitted into the meeting room. The person doing that admitting is a JAMS associate moderator. This person is part of a larger program for JAMS all across the country. Our JAMS associate moderators are specifically trained individuals that know the JAMS business, understand our clients and our neutrals and the process, and then they have the added benefit of being Zoom trained so that they're there to welcome you into your session, verify that you're actually a part of the session, and then that person will maneuver different techniques throughout the session. And my colleague Angela Griffith, which is speaking next, she will tell you more about the JAMS moderators. So that waiting room feature is very unique that we can verify your name, which is an additional security measure, then admit you into the meeting. Once you're inside of our meetings, what we do is we are taking you through the session. You will see that our record features are gone. You'll see chat buttons, you'll see the share screen button. These features are different than the platform you're in right now. As Todd had mentioned at the beginning of the session, we are using Zoom Webinar. When you are in the Zoom meeting platform, you'll see that the functionalities are a little bit different. But it's important to note that for the security of that session, we have disabled the saving of any chats. We have also disabled the recording button of any sessions altogether. Our next security feature is the breakout rooms. The breakout rooms is unique to Zoom in that you have a private caucus room for the attorney and the client, separate parties, and the mediator can join you inside those breakout rooms. Zoom has the capacity of up to 200 participants per booked meeting session, as well as the capacity of 50 breakout rooms to be set up at one time. So no matter if your party is large or small, there's multiple parties, they're very accommodating, and JAMS moderators and neutrals are more than willing to accept cases that have larger parties. The breakout room feature is very nice in that we can set up to 50 different breakout rooms so parties are able to stay separate. Now, once you're inside the meeting, you've been admitted, you've been welcomed, you've had your test or your sound check, as you've heard. The JAMS moderator then adds everyone to different rooms, but more importantly for the security features, they can lock the meeting. When they click that button to lock the meeting, that means that no one can enter the meeting. Even if you are on the list and you're clicking the meeting link and you've put in the password, the security feature of locking a meeting lets you know that your session is safe and secure and that no one can access it. With that being said, a great tool with your neutral and your during your session is to share cell phones so that if you do lose connection and things do get disconnected from the session, you can then call someone inside the meeting and say, somebody let me in, which is a nice, easy way. And as we go through, and JAMS does keep track of security measures that are changing with Zoom and many other platforms that are out there, we now have a HIPAA-compliant Zoom platform, and that has increased the security and the encryption of all of our sessions. So now we have an even stronger platform connection. There's no retaining of personal health information or personal identifiable information. Nothing is collected or reported, and the chat feature has the strongest encryption available through Zoom. So we're happy to offer these additional security measures, which each and every session will benefit from when you book your Zoom session with JAMS. With that being said, I'm going to turn things over to Angela, who will describe our moderator program. Angela?
Hi, everyone. Some of you might recognize me from the front desk at the Philadelphia office. So I am personally a JAMS moderator. I moderate cases for mostly Philadelphia, but I do moderate for other offices in New York and DC sometimes. But I want to explain the role of a moderator just because I think it's really important having a moderator for these cases. And so the moderator facilitates the use of breakout rooms. So every Zoom session has a breakout room. And in the breakout room, it's specifically for you and your clients to discuss, to meet together away from opposing counsel, other parties. And the mediator can join that breakout room throughout the day. And you can also be brought back into a joint session if you'd like to caucus with the mediator and opposing counsel. And before the Zoom session even begins, we have what's called a Zoom test session. And so the moderator will reach out to all parties and offer a test session in advance of the mediation. And so the day before, maybe the week before, we'll get together, schedule a short meeting, and the moderator will join the client, the attorneys, their clients, and go over any Zoom questions you might have, the Zoom platform, its capabilities. We'll explain the functions, how to mute, unmute yourself, start, stop your video. Because, sometimes you need to take a call, step away for a moment, grab a glass of water. Also, how to share your screen. There's a lot of documents that go around during mediations. So a moderator is able to help you make sure all the documents are on your computer at that time, that you're able to share the screen easily. You know, something you don't want someone else to see isn't going to come up or anything like that. We want to make sure everything is secure for you. And we also go over the chat feature. The chat feature can be useful sometimes because you might want to send your email out to all parties and let them know, hey, you know what, if I drop off or something happens, everyone can reach me on this number at this email. Or you might want to get a quick message out to everyone, hey, I'm going to step away for 5 minutes. And so it's really useful to have that there because it allows everyone to kind of have a main point of discussion. And I think the test sessions are really important because my priority is making sure that attorneys and their clients are very comfortable using the Zoom platform. You know, it's definitely worth sitting together for just a quick 30-40 minutes and discussing any questions you might have, getting rid of any anxieties you have about using virtual mediations. It's really helpful to see the actual platform itself before going into this huge session that you've probably put a lot of time and prep into. And we go over your audio and visual. The moderator will help you pick a place in your home or your office that works best for you. You know, we have a great visual, there's no echo in the background, and we're able to discuss any of those things. And so a test session is very important. We do offer them. I enjoy having test sessions with our clients because, like I said, my priority is making sure attorneys and their clients are very comfortable using this platform, and they can relate any information to me that they might want, any information they might want to relate to the judge ahead of time. They're able to let me know. And anything we would be able to do in our office, we could replicate that virtually. And so that's very important. That's where breakout rooms come into play. You know, if you were to walk into the JAMS Philadelphia office, I'd say, good morning, welcome everyone. And then I'd walk you and your clients to your room and wait for the judge to stop by, step in, maybe pull everyone for a joint session. Well, that's what we're doing virtually. You start in the waiting room, and then I'll admit you in, and I like to admit people in one by one so I can go over any Zoom details, Zoom questions they might have, you know, get any messages, information you might want me to relay to the judge. And then I send you off into your breakout room, and I'll let you know, hey, your attorney will meet you in there. Your client's coming in right now. And then once everyone arrives, I'll let the judge know, and we'll all come out for a joint session, or the judge will be seeing you first. And I do like to put, that's why the quote, anything we could do in the office, we can replicate virtually, is very important to me, because as someone that works at the front desk in the office and is moving these clients around throughout the day, I can see the way that this plays out in my mind. I see it happening virtually. And that's why a moderator's role is so important, because we're able to give our clients the same satisfaction that they'd receive in our offices. And I highly recommend virtual mediation and taking advantage of the test sessions that we offer before the session even begins. And so now I'd like to turn things over to Todd, who will go over any questions you all might have.
Thank you so much, Angela. We do have a good few questions in queue, which we look forward to throwing to the panel. But before doing that, I thought I would just circle back and see if Judge Rizzo, Judge Welsh, and Jerry perhaps just have one additional tip they want to present to all of you regarding how to be the best advocate that you can during a virtual mediation or arbitration. Judge Welsh, would you like to go first?
Well, I think I'll use my 2 minutes to circle around to some of the things that my colleagues and Siobhan and Angela have already said. The importance and the value of using multiple tools. For example, something as simple as Angela will gather cell phone numbers in advance as part of what we'll have when we get started. And using text, if I'm coming back into your room, I will send one of you a text. It's the equivalent of knocking on your door. to let you know that I'm coming back in. And this way, if you have multiple participants, you don't all need to be sitting there glued to the screen waiting for me to barge in. If you want to step away, you'll have one point of contact that can gather you back up when I'm coming back in. Because as we know, we can have long private caucuses, and so using the text to communicate with one another. And then when you're caucusing, and you're ready for me to come back in, you can send me a text, we're ready for you, Judge, and then I'll come back. So that's been very helpful. And then of course, telephones, we can at times break off, and perhaps I might have a telephone call with just one of the lawyers as we're, he or she might want to have a private discussion with me, and it would work best to do that offline on a phone, and we're doing that. Even old-fashioned email. I had a recent 11-hour mediation in a class action where we had reached the settlement, and we went back, the counsel went back and forth by email, exchanging the settlement agreement, red line, blue line, back and forth, copying me on it as they were going back and forth. And they did that, use that in conjunction with our video and our Zoom communication platform. And on the, really the title of this program, and I think Angela was a great spokesman for it and really captured it, we're not calling it video mediation, it is virtual mediation. And all of us work very hard to have it replicate, as Angela says, what a real life process looks and feels like. She talked about these various, and she and Siobhan talked about these various breakout rooms. Using the breakout rooms, you will be assigned to your breakout room with your clients and parties, but I can pull you into another private room with just me, or I can pull you, just counsel from both sides, into a room. So we can, just as anything we could have done in the JAMS Resolution Center in Philly, we can do virtually by moving around. And it works quite seamlessly, very surprising. And I, like Judge Rizzo, 7 weeks ago, I was very skeptical because my only experience before this had been with Skype. And I hated Skype. I refused to use Skype because the technology was so choppy and it was a very awkward and awful way to communicate. So I was expecting Zoom to be like Skype, and it couldn't be more different. So I am a complete convert. And I look forward to hopefully having this experience with some of you, more of you.
Thank you, Judge. Judge Rizzo, perhaps a tip for the advocates on the call?
Your mute's on, Annette. You have to unmute yourself.
That happens. I was doing that as an example of what you should be aware of. No, honestly, with all this, I echo all that sentiment. And once you're in session, the creativity is almost, there's no time frame in terms of creating rooms and the opportunity to have robust conversation in the moment. People understand that if I say, I'm going to zap counsel out for a minute, do you mind need to talk to him? You say, when you're away, we'll bring this person in, and it actually, it's as if we're in session, it's just in a quicker format. But we did have problems in a recent session where internet was going out where an attorney's office or home was. That can be really frustrating. So I have my pods in, I'm talking to him on the phone, and yet I'm seeing him on video. And so he's seeing my expressions. We're not missing a beat of catching every cue. But nonetheless, we resort to it quickly. So having that facile ability to pivot when you need it, just to keep the conversation, that I want to just echo again, don't let the tech overcome the mission. You can work through it. I actually had someone traveling. I have this picture of being lost in space because his internet, I don't know where he was. He wasn't in his old room and he wasn't in the new room. But I got the help of terrific staff. And that's what I think I want to leave that note. As great as we can be, for chance in some of these mediation and be teed up and fortified, at times when there's this really one-off issue, we are backed up in a heartbeat. I was a text and call away from Angela. Siobhan stepped in, And I got to tell you, that baseline of support is critical to really make sure that we don't get it. We're not missing a beat, no blips. We're going straight forward. And I cannot echo enough the ramp up and the great support technically, and even to give me a charge. We can do this when things are first starting. That have meant a lot, and that energy carries over to the parties. And I know that because I've heard it from them. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge. Jerry, a tip for everyone?
Yeah, preparation, but preparation in two regards. One we've discussed and one we haven't. One is I caution counsel not to wait till the morning of to prepare your clients for this. Go through some sort of dry run or rehearsal the day before. Call the mediator, call Angela. And we've got, look at the resources on this screen. They're extremely competent, and they really are competent in replicating the experience in our suite. The second preparation is this. I've noticed that for whatever reason, the virtual format prompts lawyers to have more interaction with each other. So be prepared for that. I just had a mediation with probably a name you'd all recognize, one of the foremost attorneys in the region. And after the mediation, he contacted me. He said it was the first mediation where he felt more able to have direct communication with the other side. And he found it extremely productive. And I don't know why the format encourages or enables that, but it's something I have witnessed over the past few mediations. So be prepared for that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. So what we do have some very good questions. We'll likely not be able to get to all of them on this call, but we will certainly work to answer all of them offline if needed. One question, more of a housekeeping item, but I do want to confirm that this program will be publicly available, as a recording, and we'll certainly send out a note to all of the attendees here to let all of you know when it is available, so you could watch it again or forward it to others. Another question that's been asked actually by a couple of folks is how often are you conducting virtual arbitrations, and are they effective? I'd like to throw this to perhaps Judge Rizzo to discuss, and also to Siobhan. So Judge Rizzo, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so even before these, and I call it extraordinary times. I refuse to say it's extraordinary times. I've had been involved in hearings with arbitrations where I've done them in sequence, but not have had a full hearing yet, although I have 2 or 3 scheduled, and they're not coming off calendar. We've had conversations to know that they will be going forward. And I think very much, I know there's trepidation perchance that counsel are not directly with their client as they may be testifying. That part would be the heart of it, would be of concern. But nonetheless, again, breaks can be made seamlessly to have that opportunity for them to be in a session room to coordinate. The hope is, what Jerry Roscoe said, that you are teed up with your client before going into the session to be prepared. There's a lot of resting on well-prepared submissions that set the stage for what the arbitration issues are. And at the end of the day, I find no blip with respect to all arguments raised at arbitration by the various counsel parties. The fluidity that I've seen even in mediations translates also into arbitration on that platform with respect to the sharing of screens. Again, technical support to make sure that they are uploaded properly, whether from your own tech source from your law firm, or clearly what JAMS can offer, as indicated by Siobhan, Angela, and their colleagues. So, I have not had a full hearing to actually closing our arguments and left with this position. But nonetheless, the parties I've talked to, the counsel, are very teed up to do it, and feel because of experiences really on mediations that they feel comfortable moving forward. So we're going to support that.
Okay, Siobhan?
Thank you, Judge Rizzo. That was great. I just want to say yes, in conjunction with Judge Rizzo, we've had over 1,000 sessions, mediations, and arbitrations that have been successful in the last 6 weeks, actually, since we made this conversion to the virtual platforms. JAMS is definitely committed to exploring other opportunities of virtual platforms when need be. Zoom has been that platform for us for about steadily for the last 6 weeks, and the numbers just keep growing. Our success rates and actually closing out mediations have been great. We have many settlements that have happened, and throughout those settlements, it's been various degrees of documents that have been exchanged via the share screen or emails, and that's part of what Jerry was saying about being prepared for how you're actually going to share documents. But I just want to add, as another question just point out, sharing documents and actually getting to that final settlement agreement, that document can be shared and finalized from your mediator through email, or it can be used through electronic document signatures. We use things like DocuSign. Some attorneys prefer Adobe Signature, which is another digital signature platform that can be used. And anyone else want to comment on the settlement agreement, they will, but just to let you guys know, we have had successful mediations and arbitrations in the last 6 weeks on Zoom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Siobhan. So we'll be able to get to one other question, and this is a little bit of a softer one, but I do think it's important. I've seen it asked in other webinars, and that really just has to do with attire. Just curious, with Judge Welsh, Judge Rizzo, Jerry, what type of attire, have you deemed acceptable for attorneys and clients in participating in a virtual session? Judge Welsh, would you like to take it?
Sure. For gentlemen, a collared shirt and a jacket are required in order for you to make the best professional appearance to the mediator, to opposing counsel, and that you are taking this as a serious professional proceeding. Ties are optional. It's just what you're comfortable doing. For women, comparable professional attire, a top, a jacket, a dress, jewelry, whatever you do from the waist down. If you want to wear your pajamas and your gym pants, that's fine. But from the waist up, look professional.
If I may, in every instance where one of the male attorneys has not worn a tie or been appropriately addressed, the other side has commented on it.
That's interesting.
I guess just my shout out to that is with respect to counseling your clients, counsel them as if we were live. What would you ask of them to have attire? Most times, in certain cases, they're casual, but smart casual or nicely casual. Or you know what? If it's actually a different dimension because of poverty issues or whatever it could be, then they should dress as asked by their counsel to do the very best they can. And that will be part of the discussion. That will be part of the mediation as they present. So I think to my colleague's point, counsel, you got to ramp up a bit and actually understand that we are not skipping a beat. That's my line. We're in session. You'll be doing the same things as if we're virtual. So rise to that occasion. I know you will. And I've seen it.
If not now, when?
Right. Well, I do want to obviously thank the panel for a very thorough and enjoyable presentation. As mentioned, we will have this webinar publicly available in very short order, and I'll be sure to follow up with all the attendees on where you can access that. And thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you next week with another webinar with Judge Welsh focused on insurance and others to come. And we look forward to supporting all of you and servicing all of you during this time. Thank you so much.